So I got an interesting question from one of my patrons here. Do you feel that your military service made you a better citizen as opposed to a better person? Did it make you more aware and or sensitive to issues facing your nation? Now, it's a very complicated question because we're looking at a time span of 17 years, and many times I revisited my experience and revisited my life and everything else in this regard. So the other thing is, in Austria with mandatory service, you have to do national service in the army and or alternative service as a civilian or civilian service. So basically you are forced as a man, of course. And this is the thing, I don't think this really makes you a better citizen because you have already a bad taste to it, because you don't have an alternative, and both are also quite frowned upon, especially not a lot of positive things are said about the military. And the other way how they drive you away to a certain degree from an alternative service society, is also that they tell you, you won't like alternative service. And it's also quite interesting that the numbers declined constantly who joined military service in the years, and in 2015, coincidentally, it went up again. So whatever the reason for that was. And the other aspect is it made me more sensitive to certain social issues. For instance, I was well off in terms of financial terms. So for me, the choice was never between would I lose something if I take the other one. I would lose several months for the alternative service. But this was not a major issue. But I met people in the military who told me, recruits like me, that they were already working and they had now a huge minus in their income, a huge negative in this regard, because you get a bit of money, but it's extremely low, and they already cars, they already an apartment or something, and they had to pay for it, and it was 8-9 months around, and they get a very few amount of money. Of course, you could stay in the barracks, which I don't advise you to, all the time and only eat there, and this will save you a bit of money, but still you have to pay the rent and you still have to pay for your other expenses. Some people actually noted to me when I talked the first time about this, that in Austria you can apply to get certain money and other things, but I never heard of this, and the people probably I talked to never heard of this also. And there's also the issue, if you apply for something that you need support, anybody who has ever been on welfare will tell you he doesn't feel particularly well, and you don't feel very well also in boot camp and the military in general. Not to mention that it's a load usually of bureaucratic crap, which is quite annoying. Even for me nowadays, I still have quite problems filling out various forms, and I have 2 master's degrees. So if I have problems with bureaucratic forms, with 37 and with 2 master's degrees, maybe it's a problem with the forms and with the whole process. But yeah, let's go back to the military service. So it made me more aware about certain social issues, because you also meet everyone in life. In my company we had people we had lawyers in there, we had a mathematician, we had people that were 17, the lowest age you could join, that were still in training for certain craftsmanship or something. You had people who worked at a farm. You had everything, all walks of lives, and also the age difference was also very, very different. So from this you get a better feel of Austrian society to a certain degree. Of course, since already some people commented on my video, for instance, certain groups actually were not present in my company, which people say, okay, we have a problem with these and these groups, and I say, hey, actually interesting, we didn't have this in our company. So, and also times changed. I had in 2001. So it definitely made me a better person, I don't think it made me a better citizen because it made me quite cynical about the state to a certain degree. Now, it also made me aware about issues my country was facing, definitely. For instance, we were deployed on the eastern border in the Assistenzeinsatz, the assistance mission, which was due to Austria being the outer border or presenting an outer border nation of the European Union. And within the Schengen area, you can mostly travel free without showing a passport. So you have to control, of course, the outer borders. And we used our military for that, although we used mainly conscripts, and it was for more than 15 years. And the assistance mission actually, per definition by the Constitution, as far as I know, should at most take 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. So basically we prolonged that way too many times, if you consider it a bandit or not. I personally think it was a bandit, because deploying recruits there and under very harsh and bad circumstances is not the ideal way to do this. But it also, it made you aware about, yeah, life is not nice all the time, which I think in many aspects this assistance mission and many other issues are one of the reasons why in recent years or in the recent elections there was a far shift to the right. Because, well, let's face it, we had more than 100,000 people. I think I have numbers in a video I'll link above where I state the numbers. And I think it probably even 200,000 men who served there in their, sometimes in their best years under very harsh and bad conditions. I was lucky. I was stationed in the barracks. I was only once out there, and it was at a nice climate. But in Burgenland, the area you're stationed, the summers are quite hot. We have a very bad kind of mosquito there, and the winters are quite cold. So I have many stories of friends and others who faced various issues there. And I think this is one part. If you as a citizen did your duty and protected your border, you also want that in the future to happen again, because you did your part. And this is clearly reflected in the election results in Austria. If you compare it, for instance, for Germany, that never had such a mission or also has conscription it doesn't have it anymore, but it had it also in a rather limited state, because I also talked with quite many Germans, and in the later years it already flung away. So in this regard, since you were faced with something you didn't want to do usually under very harsh conditions and everything, you get, I think, in a certain way you're definitely more informed, because you have a better connection to society as a whole. Because as mentioned before, I met mathematicians, and I also met people that are working at farms. And I think this is to a certain degree required to become a better person and also to become a better citizen. Because if you only hang out with your friends from university, and then there's a problem, especially because I basically studied 3 things. I studied history, I studied computer science, and later on, after I was working and then I went back, I also did a bit of law. Although in Austria this is not law school, it's not a postgraduate, you can start from the very beginning. And I was quite shocked to see the social differences. I mean, I already knew them statistically, that people that study law or economics usually come from better households. In Germany, definitely, I saw the statistics, but then I actually saw this. It was quite mind-boggling. So, for instance, if you come from an upper class, middle class household, and you study law, and you don't do your national service or something, you probably could be that certain groups of your society you never encounter. And to a certain degree, many people think in Europe, and also I think in the United States, that many of the elites are completely out of touch. And I certainly agree on that, because if I hadn't done this national service, and if later on, if I didn't have work on a farm, I probably would be completely out of touch. Because in these instances, I talk to very different people, to people doing manual labor, to experience the various social issues they were facing. I didn't have this in my technical high school, which was basically only the best pupils came in, and I certainly didn't do this in computer science and history. I mean, these were not these elite studies like I saw clearly with law. I mean, it doesn't cost anything in Austria, but still there's a certain pre-selection going on because they don't do this usually. It's quite interesting. I also changed my view about law quite considerably in this regard. So yeah, and in general, I think in a democracy, if you become a better person, you will become a better citizen. And this comes because I think a certain key part of becoming a better person is being more responsible. And in democracy, you need responsible people. Well, to sum this up, I think generally, if you become a better person, you will become a better citizen in the long run, definitely. Of course, it depends what are your core values for a better citizen. For me, a better citizen is a person who is more responsible and who knows what is going on in his community, in his country. If better citizen means a more obedient citizen, then I don't think it will make people a better citizen. And I definitely don't think that obedience is the way to go. I think there should be a responsible citizen who knows what is sometimes necessary, both in doing his work and sometimes also saying, okay, to the government or to officials or something, okay, now that's enough. This is clearly completely out of touch with reality. Thank you for watching. Be sure to check out my other videos. And if you haven't subscribed already, notice this is my second channel. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't. So thank you for watching and see you next time.